You'd think I'd stop travelling by now, right? Wrong. Hello everybody, my name is Emma and I am your Shucks Saturday. I think that kind of has a pretty cool ring to it, don't you think? So this week it is story time week and I'm going to tell you a couple of stories about my failed travels, and since I don't have many scandalous things to tell you about my life, I shall let you laugh at my expense. So I have a couple of stories to tell you, a couple of small ones, a couple of bigger ones, about how I am an idiot abroad. Literally. First story comes from when I was about 10 years old and I went to Brussels. I went to a indoor swimming pool and we decided to go into the deep end in this foreign speaking country where we didn't understand anything that anyone said. And then I ended up almost drowning. Okay, it wasn't that close, but I went over to the deep end and then the waves suddenly came on and we didn't realise that any of this was happening because all the announcements were in Dutch, I think. And so we were just like, oh, just having a jolly, and we were in the deep end and suddenly these giant waves come and we're just hanging on to dear life on these little ropes that are on the side of the swimming pool. So I'm just there like, oh my god, I'm gonna die today, just hanging onto the ropes. And this lifeguard comes over, says something in Dutch, and I'm just like, like that. So he grabs me and he pulls me out, and that was the time I almost died in a swimming pool. That is one of the shorter stories, but I do have one from a more recent trip. I went to Copenhagen and it's one of the most amazing places I've ever been to. I love Scandinavia, and Copenhagen itself is just such a beautiful city, and so I was dying to go there, and with my money I earned over the summer I decided to go because it's one of the places I wanted to go for a very long time actually. So I went to Copenhagen with my sister and it was our first like solo trip together, because we didn't really afford it before then because I hadn't really had a job that could give me that amount of money before, so we decided we would just go on a little trip together. It was like the second day and we'd gone to the zoo. I think I had this really dodgy burger. I think it had like off mayonnaise in it or an off meat or something, but by the time I got to the canal and we were on our boat trip, I started to feel really terrible. I was feeling really dizzy. I was like, oh, my stomach doesn't feel really good, and so as soon as I stood up and got off the boat, I like vomited in the middle of the street. It's not the most attractive story or the most nice thing to think about, but I think I got food poisoning in Copenhagen. Every time I tried to move a step forward, I would like projectile vomit, and it was just terrible. Everyone was watching me. There was this woman from a cafe who came over and tried to give me tissues, and I was just like, oh, this is so embarrassing. It's not very good when you have food poisoning and you are many buses away from your hostel, and your hostel is a walk from the bus stop and you have to go up an elevator, and honestly I was so surprised I was not sick more. I had like this bag and I was walking around town and I was just trying to like squeeze my hands and just, I didn't want to be sick anywhere, but loads of people saw me. I just like walked a few steps and then I sat on the floor because I was just like, oh, I can't deal with it, and then it was terrible. It was terrible. I did enjoy the trip though, but I spent one whole night basically up the whole time. And because we didn't want to waste our days, we only had 4 days, I just kind of slept for 2 hours and then we continued. And I think the following day we went to the planetarium to like sit down and have like a chill time, because previously we had been going to this theme park like every day and just like going on rides, but I did not feel up for that at all. Although on that day we did end up going to the theme park when I was still feeling a little bit ill. But this kind dude in the hostel gave me some sickness tablets, and I went to the pharmacy to sort everything out so I didn't almost die from food poisoning. But for that 12 hours I was up being sick in the hostel where the poor people had to sit and deal with me. It was something. It's just something always bad happens when I go travelling for some reason. And I'll tell you one last story. One last story about how I almost got lost in the countryside of France. You guys might know this, or you might not know this. Probably not, because I haven't really told you before. But I used to be awful at reading maps, and we got sent off orienteering in France, in French countryside, and everything was in French, all the signs, and they would just like keep going right. Every time you see a right turn, turn right, and you will find everything on the orienteering. And so we're walking, and it's a really long walk actually, it's like 10 miles or something, the whole like orienteering track, so if you go off course it's a lot of walking. So we're walking around and we see this right turn and it looks like it kind of goes into a bush, and we were like, that can't be the right turn, so we kept going around this lake left, and then we suddenly ended up at this French farm and we were like, oh my god, we are lost. And so we spent a few hours walking back in the French countryside trying to find our way back, and this was on a school trip as well, so there were people looking for us. We finally ended up getting back actually. We backtracked our whole way back all the way to the beginning, and then we just sat there waiting for someone to pick us up, and someone did in their van, and they were like, oh my goodness, where the hell were you? And that is how I almost got lost in the French countryside. So there are some stories, some very diddy ones about how I am not very good at travelling at all. I enjoy it, and I don't love doing it, and I have got better at it since I did actually make my way around Copenhagen with a paper map. Oh my god, I have no idea how I did that, but I have been near abroad many times as a young person, so I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. It is a very small one. I have little stories here and there, but I never do anything particularly scandalous because I am such a good person. Anyway, thank you so much for watching Shook. Please subscribe and watch out for Sunday and the rest of the week next week and all the videos that we have in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!